Oh, okay. So this was posted an hour ago by Alex007. Now, when somebody says, Lowko, there's balance changes about to go live, I always take it with a grain of salt, but it's Alex. It's Alex007 who does a lot of StarCraft related stuff over at ESL. Hello, I'm Alex, the ESL StarCraft 2 Pro Tour Manager. Yeah, I'm really excited to share the plans to refresh the competitive environment for StarCraft 2 esports with the new map pool and a major balance update. Well, well, well. So this has been the word on the street for a couple months now at this point. The StarCraft street, that is. Okay, don't treat this as an official patch announcement from Blizzard. All proposed changes are coming from the community. They're currently just in public testing phase and are still subject to change. Okay. As the first step, we'd like to present the new map pool, which may become the competitive and ladder standard for the winter season. Okay. So some of these, I recognize the names right away, are from, I think all of them actually, are from the most recent Team Liquid map contest. Yeah, I did do an overview of these maps. Let me actually see real quick if I still have my rating over here somewhere. TOMC finalists. Yeah, so here's my rating. Every map gets a 1 out of 10 if the monster logo is still there after the tournament. Good note from Lowko in the past. The TOMC itself was sponsored. And there's like a little in-map sponsor on every single map. There's like a dozen of them. I really hope they don't accidentally publish the wrong version of any of these maps. So this first one is called Golden Aura. What did I name, or what did I rate rather, Golden Aura? I gave it a 7 out of 10. My lowest rating in the macro category. Site Delta. I don't recognize this particular name. No. Interesting. Oceanborn? That's a Maris map. I think I really liked Oceanborn. Yeah, I gave that a 9 out of 10. Hecate? Aw, Hecate. Oh, I think some of these from the previous TOMC as well, aren't they? Yeah, I recognize this one. No, it's an 8 out of 10 is what I gave it. I recognize this one because in my mind, these 3 bridges that are in the middle of the map cannot possibly be mirrored. But they are. It turns out if you draw a line in a certain way, they are actually mirrored. But it still seems very cursed to me. Like if you, yeah, it's rotational symmetry, exactly. But if you look at it at a glance, it really feels like it's impossible for this to be mirrored properly, but apparently it is. Okay. This map is called Solaris. Fair enough. Solaris, I rated a 9 out of 10. My favorite in the rush category. Hard Lead, another 9 out of 10. Okay, cool. And then we have Black Lotus. Or Lotus. I don't know where some of these maps are coming from. This looks like a strange one. Main base, natural third. Ooh, this looks like a really spicy map. Interesting. How do you get over here on the high ground? Okay, I'm gonna have to load these maps in-game to really figure it out, but... Cool. All 7 maps were part of the recent TOMC. Okay, so I guess some of the maps here were just not of the finalists. Yeah, they're just not in the finalists, but apparently they still made it. We're extremely grateful for the whole map making community. Me too, dude. Yet another edition of the TOMC happened. Okay, these maps can all be found on the Battle.net servers with the LC ladder candidate tag for the map name. Please make sure to provide feedback. Okay. So I really hope that these are not the maps with the monster logo then on them. We're also working on a new map pool proposal for the team modes, but there's no list of that just yet. Okay. As a second step, please find below the major balance update provided or prepared rather by our beloved Balance Council. Yeah, so from what I understand, this is a group of pro gamers that used to be friends, but ever since they got part of this group chat, they now no longer look each other in the eyes. Now, I'm not sure if that's the case, but I don't think being part of that balance group chat is a particularly fun experience. I feel like, because a lot of these guys are pretty good friends as well, right? And you have to decide, like, everybody's going to be at least somewhat biased. So if you're proposing a Zerg nerf, the Zerg players are going to be very upset about that, and it's It's pretty easy, I think, to lose friends. From what I understand, it's a bit of a dramatic experience. I am not part of that discussion, so you can't blame me for anything. Are you excited about mid-game motherships? What? Bringing back mech play to TVP? What? With the Cyclone redesign and the Brute Lords becoming closer to Guardians? What? Then go via this link or just look at the picture below. I'm gonna use the link, Alex. Sorry for light mode, but... Oh, dark mode is available. Clicking the sun icon at the very bottom of... Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. Sorry for the flashbang. This website... Alex knows what's up, okay? This website knows what's up. All right, the patch goals. Let's see. Make Protoss more stable on a professional level in the early game versus Raven pushes, and more able to fight Terran mid-late game armies without solely relying on disruptors, okay? Increase the variety in the mid-game and late-game army compositions by reducing the strength of mass ghosts, banelings, and disruptors, okay? Make over-specialized units, Cyclones, the Mothership, and Infestors, viable throughout more stages of the game, okay? Bring more visual clarity to important units on the minimap, as well as relevant abilities like the Widowmine targeting and Disruptor cooldown indicator. Okay, promote more interaction in late game scenarios by making units such as Tempest, Mothership, and Brute Lords more maneuverable. I love all of this. In my mind, there's like 2 areas of the game where we could definitely use a little bit of love. Primarily PvT, right? That in general is just a bit tricky. But also, I feel like the longer a patch is around right now, especially on maps like, for example, Neo-Humanity and Gressven, people start turtling really hard. Now, a lot of that has to do with the map layouts, but there have been a lot of very long games lately where neither player really wants to fight, because they know that if they're fighting, they're gonna be, well, fighting without their static defense, and it's kind of like a stalemate, right? Okay, so this is interesting. Table of contents. Oh my god. Wait, how long is this? I know I already scrolled through it, but I didn't quite realize that that is... Okay, that's a lot of changes. So again, this is gonna be my very first impressions. I don't really know exactly what to think of this right from the get-go. Okay, now this is a big one. Cyclone. Cost reduced from 150-100 to 125-50. Tech lab requirement removed. Health reduced, armor reduced, supply cost reduced. Couple of things right from the get-go. If the tech lab requirement is removed, that also means you can produce it with a reactor. Significant change. Yeah, this is a properly written proposal, I understand that, but in the past, whenever there have been any proposals by Blizzard or the balance team or whatever, this is usually the exact set of changes that goes live onto the ladder at some point too. So usually there's like a public test realm, and then it just sort of goes live. I'm not sure if that's going to be handled like that as well this time around, but this is a very substantial change. Auto attack range increased from 5 to 6. Okay, so they're going to be less tanky. They're going to die significantly faster, but they're going to be easier to produce, and they will have additional range as well. Auto attack damage, attack speed, now 11 plus 2 versus armored. Okay. I don't know what the current damage output is, but it's a 0.491 cooldown. That's very specific. Lock-on now uses the Cyclone auto attack damage, plus 1 damage per weapon upgrade, no longer ignores armor. Okay. That's a big one. So, Cyclones, for the lock-on ability, have never been benefited from the attack upgrades. So, it's weird, because basically the lock-on ability for Cyclones in the current version of StarCraft 2, it's almost like considered a spell. And spells in StarCraft 2 do not benefit from attack upgrades. It's the same for the Widowmine. The Widowmine also does not benefit from attack upgrades. So apparently now the lock-on will use the auto attack damage, plus 1 damage per weapon upgrade. Okay. Lock-on now, or no longer has a delay before the first shot and maintains weapon cooldown between lock-ons. Okay, lock-on cooldown removed. I see. Okay, so the lock-on cast range reduced from 7 to 6. Lock-on max range reduced from 15 to 9. Multiple Cyclones will now auto-cast lock-on onto the same target. Mag field accelerator upgrade removed. Movement speed reduced. And there's a new upgrade that increases the movement speed to 5.1. Okay, so basically what this comes down to is that there's a unit that looks like the Cyclone, and it's called the Cyclone, but it's entirely different from the Cyclone. This essentially makes it... Yeah, it makes it more like a Marine version of mech. You know, like the jack of all trades type of unit that can kind of just do everything, but it's not great at anything in particular. Redesign of the Cyclone to make it more of an all-round unit in all matchups. Yeah, aims to increase the viability of mech gameplay against Protoss while promoting more active engagement with mech-based armies. Okay. Name/icon for the Cyclone upgrade. Okay. This is a significant list of changes. So Cyclones right now are really only used in 2 scenarios, right? Like we see them in early game defense. So Terran will make like 1, maybe 2, right? And that's kind of it. Or we see them with Battle Mech. Battle Mech, however, over the last half year has been very unpopular. Basically nobody plays it. So doing some significant changes to the Cyclone, I think, is a good idea. This seems like a lot. It's very hard for me to judge how this would play out, because it really feels like an entire rework, right? And I guess that's what it is, but it's gonna be really hard to say exactly how this works out. You want a link to this? Sure. Here we go. The Ghost. Everybody's favorite unit. The snipe damage reduced from 170 to 130, plus 40 versus psionic. Okay. EMP radius reduced from 175 to 1.5. Okay, so that's where it used to be. Reducing the radius of EMP will encourage Protoss to use Psystorm in a PvT matchup and help in straight-up engagements versus Terran armies. Snipe will no longer one-shot units such as Zealots and Roaches, as well as requiring an extra shot to kill Ultralisk in the late game versus Zerg, generally reducing their cost efficiency over time, while still being able to kill important spellcasters such as Vipers. This is also effectively a range reduction, because, like, you know, if you have a bigger radius, obviously it's going to be much easier to actually reach a target that's further away. So that is a very substantial change. This one also is big. I think Ghosts in particular are kind of lame in Zerg versus Terran. Now, I am a Zerg player mostly, so it's a bit, you know, biased maybe, but it really feels like the Ghost is very good against every late game Zerg unit, because they're good against Infestors, Vipers, Ultras, Brute Lords, Lurkers. Like, it's the jack of all trades unit for the late game TVZ. But it's also very good against Protoss with EMP in particular. Like on Zealots, for example, we see it used all the time. High Templar into Archon play is not played very often at all in TVP. So snipe damage reduced, but not versus psionic, meaning that like Templar and stuff can still get sniped. Interesting. Very substantial change there already. Alright, Widow Mines. Drilling Claw now also makes the Widow Mine unburrow twice as fast. Okay. Target line is now more visible. Return some of the strength to active Widow Mine Micro in the mid-game versus Zerg that was lost after the Drilling Claw's burrow speed nerf, while not significantly increasing the power of Widow Mine drops. These guys are going to be jumping all over the map. Yeah. These guys are going to be jumping everywhere. That's going to be fun, though, to see. A lot of counterplay. Terran Micro in the mid-game is already insane. Kangaroo Mines? Literally, yeah. You're going to be able to, like, well, push them around pretty easily. Like, a lot of these things in isolation are pretty easy to judge, but, like, as a combination, I don't know where this is going to be, right? Like, Widow Mines together with Cyclones may become a unit composition because of this. Targeting line is now more visible. I think this is going to be primarily helpful for viewers, because it's going to be easier to see if something is being targeted. So that's going to be interesting. We have the Medevac speed upgrade replaced with Caduceus Reactor. Okay, remember that upgrade. That is a old school name for StarCraft 2 upgrades. Actually, I think that's even in Brood War. But anyways. Speed upgrade replaced with Caduceus Reactor. It increases the energy regen rate by 100%. Okay, so there's a speed upgrade for the Medevac. Not very commonly researched at all. However, this would make it a must-have in the late game. That is incredibly useful. Minimap radius increased from 0.75 to 1. Okay, so the unit is bigger on the minimap. It standardizes the minimap size of War Prism Medevac Overlord. Previously, War Prisms could appear smaller on the minimap on large maps. I guess it means War or Medevacs rather. But anyways, replaces the current unused Medevac upgrade with an upgrade which could be used in active games with large Medevac counts that run out of energy. I actually think you would primarily use this in lower Medevac count games, because you would be able to get more value out of your Medevacs, but interesting. This change together with Widow Mines sounds like you would never want to transition away from a Remarauder Medevac. Like, why would you change? Just play more Marine Marauder Medevac. Obviously, I haven't yet seen the rest of the changes, but... Raven. Interference Matrix now requires an upgrade. Yo, that is a massive nerf to the Raven, especially in TVP. TVT I'm not going to talk about as much, because TVT is always a little bit difficult to judge any of the mirror matchups. But Ravens normally are very good. So I don't think this really matters too much in TVT, but in Terran versus Protoss, this is going to be... well, I mean, it is going to matter as well in TVT, but I don't think we have to worry so much about TVT. This is going to be a significant change for Terran versus Protoss, because you will not be able to Interference Matrix the Colossus without an upgrade. A single Raven opening can currently disable multiple key defensive units in the early game. Yeah. The cheap cost of the upgrade still allows for multiple Raven play in TVT and specialized builds in TVP. Love that.
Whoop whoop.
Thank you very much, Confused Speech. I appreciate it. Yeah, so currently, right, in Terran versus Protoss, the way it feels for Protoss is you invest your entire early game to get Colossi out, right? You make 2 Colossi as quickly as possible, you're thinking you're real safe, and then the opponent can disable your entire Colossus build with a unit that they sort of produced anyways. Because a lot of Terrans produce it blindly because they're worried about Dark Templar or whatever, right? I mean, that's only at the lower level of play, but... And then you just sort of exchange energy to disable the hardest hitting units from Protoss. Makes it very tricky to actually have build order variety in TVP, and this is big. All of these changes are big. Okay. Lurker. Adaptive Talents move speed bonus removed. Adaptive Talents cost reduced from 150 to 100. Okay. As some of the main counters to Lurkers are getting nerfed, reduce the speed of repositioning in the late game. I see. So Adaptive Talents does like a burrow speed as well as a movement speed. But it's going to be cheaper to research now. Okay, fair. I think that's fair, to be honest. Infestor. Pathogen Glands upgrade removed. Infestor starting energy increased from 50 to 75. Fungal growth range reduced from 10 to 9. Fungal growth damage reduced even more, from 30 to 20. Since the Infested Terran ability was removed, the Infestor has no utility until reaching 75 energy. Fungal damage and cast range is reduced to prevent Infestors from killing Marines with 2 consecutive fungals, and as a trade-off to the EMP radius nerf in late game TVC. Okay. So now Infestors will spawn with enough energy for fungal growth. That's a big buff. I would not be surprised if this means that you would want to get a group of Infestors, probably like 2, maybe 3 of them, every single game regardless. Dark will definitely be getting them, yeah. Dark is already playing quite a few games where he gets 2 Infestors before going up to Hive. At least that's what he used to do some time ago. They're obviously not cheap units, but, Fungal growth, a range, reduced from 10 to 9, okay. And the damage has been reduced as well. Yeah, I overall really do like this. So, in general, I think Spellcasters in StarCraft 2 are a little bit too good. Spellcasters in StarCraft 2 always kind of felt like the ultimate late game unit that you want to get. Like, a lot of Zerg late games is literally like 20 Infestors, 8 Brute Lords, and like 5 Vipers and a whole lot of Corruptors or whatever, right? Like, that's a very common late game unit comp. It's gonna be difficult to see how this balances the rest of the game. But I think overall, reducing the strength of Spellcasters is a great idea. Yeah. Spire, air armor upgrade cost reduced from 150, 225, 225, 300, 300. Okay. To be in line with the air weapons. Okay. Air armor is generally considered less useful than air weapons, despite being more expensive. Never considered that, actually. Fair enough. They are expensive. Normally, you only go air armor upgrades in things like Muta versus Muta. So, in ZVZ, I guess. This is going to be kind of nice. Viper, consume damage reduced from 200 to 150. Okay, so the Viper does not get any changes, other than the fact that you don't have to worry about your buildings dying as quickly. Okay, fair. Whoa, Brute Lord movement speed buff again. So they got faster with the most recent speed upgrade. Movement speed increased from 224 to 262. Bruteling movement speed reduced, however. Bruteling health reduced as well. Brute Lord attack, or Bruteling rather, attack speed reduced from 4.6 to 5.7. Okay, so the Brute Lord itself is closer to a Guardian then, and the Brutelings are once again nerfed. Similar to like what we had in the most recent patch, which I guess at this point is like a year ago. Maybe not that long, I'm not sure. Anyways, it is gonna make them a lot more Guardian-like the Brute War Guardian. My main concern here is late game TVZ, which is where we already see the Brute Lord getting countered pretty hard by Thors. So there's this weird dynamic between Thors and Brute Lords in Terran versus Zerg, where like if it's like 10 Thors going up against 10 Brute Lords, generally speaking, the Thors will win if it's an open terrain, right? However, if it's like 30 Thors versus 30 Brute Lords, the little Brutelings derp with the pathing of the Thor so much that it's really difficult to get a proper engagement off as Terran. But it's straight up numbers. Brute Lords pretty much always lose against Thors. But sometimes, yeah, I guess you can now escape. You might be able to fly away. That's funny. Continuing in the direction of the last balance update, further increasing Brute Lord mobility while further reducing the strength of Brutelings to compensate. Should allow for more active play in the late game. I mean, I like that idea overall. I don't think it allows you to dodge snipe. No, I don't think you can dodge the ghost snipe with this. Sometimes, like, Ultralists can do that, but Brute Lords are definitely not going to be as fast as Ultras. Personally, I suck at controlling spellcasters as Zerg. I always have enjoyed the more swarmy approach. So I like the nerf on Infestors and you know, maybe a small change to the Viper in exchange for like more powerful base units. I don't mind that myself, but I wonder how this is going to change things at the pro level, because obviously that's really where things matter the most. Okay, Overlord. Oh snap, we're not done yet? Oh snap, dude, there's more. Hydra too? Okay, Overlord. Deceleration speed increased. Generate creep delay reduced. Okay, so it reduces the amount of time it takes for Overlords to stop and begin dropping creep. Ah! This is one of my... I thought the rest of the changes were going to be Protoss. No. This was one of my biggest frustrations when the German taxi build was very popular. Remember that? This is actually very nice. The transport upgrade, movement speed increased. Move speed with pneumatized carapace increased. Whoa, what? Oh, interesting. So the Brute Lord, or sorry, the Overlord itself becomes a little bit faster if you upgrade it to a Dropper Lord? Yeah, the German taxi build, it was a Queen drop build. It was very powerful. It was very popular in Zerg versus Protoss before they allowed Queens to no longer transfuse off creep. It's a build that Lambo came up with, and he's from Germany, and the Overlord is the taxi. And then Elaser came up with a... what's it called? A Nidus Worm variant, and that was called the Warsaw Subway. But the build that ultimately everybody settled on was the one that the Koreans were going for, and that was the Soul Stroll, where you literally just walk the Queens across. So you had the German taxi, the Warsaw Subway, and the Seoul Stroll. Seoul as in like the capital city of South Korea. The Korean version was the most popular one, but yeah, this was a little mini meme in the StarCraft community for like half a year, a couple years back. Anyways, there was the Italian Vespa too. Yeah, The Italian Vespa was the version, I think, where I think it was Elaser who said that the build wasn't viable, and then Raynor did it in a tournament, but with a very small iteration, but it was basically the Warsaw subway, I think. Anyways, he called it the Italian Vespa because Elaser told him it wasn't viable. Something like that. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. The Ultralisk, cost reduced. Okay, 25 minerals less. Burrow and unburrow time reduced as well. Okay, Lurkers and Brute Lords are generally favored over Ultras. Ultras have poor cost efficiency over time. Should make them more used throughout long games, while not greatly reducing the initial investment. Oh, it was the German taxi, but in ZVZ? Okay, I thought it was the Warsaw subway, but in ZVZ. I see. Interesting. Anyways, cool. Yeah, Ultra, I think they're cool units, but we barely ever see them. Small change, but I think this actually could make a difference. Yeah, you could set up an Ultralisk ambush. Where's the American Freedom Trail? The Canadian Canoe Canal? The Canadian Canoe? I mean, maybe if Scarlet would come up with her version of that build, we could get the Canadian Canoe, but... The Dutch bicycle build? Anyways, the Hydralisk. So the Hydra is considered to be a mini lurker. That's how most people consider the Hydralisk. Speed plus range upgrade combined. Somewhere out there, Elaser is cheering, dude. I feel like Elaser made so much money winning tournaments with the speed and range upgrades. Remember, like 51 drones, 5 gas, 3 base or whatever? You would just like make Hydra after Hydra after Hydra. This is huge. Increases the speed.
G. Patch nerds.
Gerd, patch nerds. There you go. It was a good attempt by Brian. Thank you very much, Lathreenus, for the 83 months. Increases the speed at which Hydras come online in the mid-game for more quickly responding to enemy air switches such as Mutalisk and to supplement weaker banelings. No! No! Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. This is big. I feel like the main thing that has to be concerned for right over here, what you have to be concerned about, is Hydra timing attacks. I know it sounds silly, but I already played Hydra counter or Hydra timing attacks with 2 Hydra dents pretty successfully. I feel like it worked out quite well, and now you can basically do the same thing. So you can make like 3 or 4 more Hydras with the attack. Timing attacks are gonna be something, but we'll see. All right, now here's the big one, I think. Baneling, bonus damage per upgrade reduced from 2+2 versus light to 2. Okay, so Banelings deal less damage to units like Marine? Like, for example, yeah, okay, Hellions, that sort of thing? Centrifugal Hooks upgrade reduced from 150 to 100. Research time reduced as well. Centrifugal Hooks health bonus removed. Okay, so they used to get like +5 HP. Does this mean they no longer one-shot probes with +2 melee? Reduce some of the strength of mass Baneling armies in the mid-game and reduce the volatility in defending Baneling run-bys by requiring multiple Banelings to kill workers. Yes. The speed upgrades will require less of an investment to maintain the smaller balance, or similar balance rather, for 2-base Terran Marine tank-based all-ins. Oh, it literally says it right here. Will no longer one-shot probes for drones. Sorry, I didn't see that, guys. I didn't, nah, I mean, you know, maybe if I didn't turn on dark mode, okay, I would have... That was a bit silly. I actually think this is a good change, yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see how this works out in the mid-game, but there's no denying that the Baneling... Like, if you have infinite money, right? The Baneling is kind of like the best unit in the game. It can deal so much damage, it's very hard to micro against. So... Yeah, the fact that with +2 melee, you can one-shot probes is really cool when you're the Zerg. But when you're a Protoss player, it sucks. Especially since Terran SCVs have 5 more health. So Terran SCVs have 5 more health than probes. Don't know why. I do know why, actually. They changed that at some point. But yeah, they have 5 more health, so SCVs never died to Banelings in one hit. This will make it a little bit better for Protoss overall. This is gonna make it weaker, though, against Bio-Terran. But maybe with the Cyclone changes and the Widow Mines, it's not something to be concerned for. This is mostly going to, I think, delay the lair timing for Zerg players. So one of the reasons really to go lair in Terran versus Zerg is because you need to get that bailing speed out. An 8-second reduction doesn't sound like a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is gonna make, for example, like going double upgrades before going lair a lot more popular than lair into double upgrades, if that makes any sense. Like, we used to see double upgrades into lair into bailing speed all the time. These days, not very popular, but I know that, like, I've seen Raynor play it a bunch lately. I think that strategy may very well work. Yeah, once again, a little bit more effectively. Okay, so interesting set of changes. So some underused units are being buffed up, some overused units are being nerfed a little bit, and overall, I think this is going to be a good set of changes. Okay, onto the Protoss. Shield upgrades reduced from 150, 225, 300 to 150, 200, 250. Okay. Shield upgrades are less useful than attack and armor upgrades for both air and ground units in different scenarios. Current change helps increase the cost efficiency. Good. Cybernetic score. Air armor upgrade reduced from 150, 225, 300 to 100, 175, 250. Same as air weapons. Air armor, okay, just like with Zerg, is generally considered less useful than the air weapons upgrade despite being more expensive. I don't think this is a massive change. I see some of you immediately thinking, oh god, more Skytles play. We'll see where it goes, guys. maybe we'll see some changes to the Skytles units as well, I don't know. War Prism, minimap radius increased from 0.875 to 1. Okay, so this is just like the Medevac change. Disruptor, supply cost increased from 3 to 4. Model scale reduced by 9%. Radius increased, however. Okay. So, more supply heavy. Unit itself, however, is gonna be smaller, but the radius is increased. It's currently hard to tell which disruptor have Purification Nova available when multiple are clumped together as the models intersect with each other. The goal of the supply cost increase is to reduce the potential of mass disruptor armies, while still allowing Protoss players to use disruptors as a strong mid-game and late-game tool. Remember that style we recently saw from Classic against Bjorn at Gamers 8? Where Classic literally went, I think he went 6 Robo Facility Mass Disruptor? Okay, I thought it was cool. I think it was one of the coolest styles we've seen. I actually wouldn't be surprised if it becomes the standard. But, yeah, maybe that's a little much. This is cool. I actually like this change. Yeah, again, this kind of feels like a spellcaster to me, you know? Like, kind of a gimmicky unit overall. I do think disruptors are fun to watch, but very frustrating to play against, and when there's like a ton of them, you're kind of forced into flying units or spellcasters instead. I think this is cool. A Void Ray buff. Prismatic alignment movement speed with flux veins increased from 2.62 to 3.49. My cat wants attention. He's a Protoss player. He does not want me to say anything negative about, you know. Milo, I'll get to you in a moment, okay? This is a massive speed increase. Previously, there was an issue where flux veins decreased the movement speed of Void Rays while prismatic alignment was active. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. No. Sorry, I misunderstood. I thought for a second that the overall speed with flux veins was increased, but that's not it, actually. Prismatic alignment movement speed. So that's when you make the beam thick. You know when you make the beam thick? When it deals bonus damage against armored? You know that thing that you activate against Marines? That thing has been, it's still gonna be quite slow, yeah. So previously there was an issue where flux veins decreased the movement speed of Void Rays while prismatic alignment was active when it was intended. Okay, allows for players to actively micro Void Rays in late game engagement without needing to cancel prismatic alignment. I see. You wanna leave? Sorry guys, I have to get my cat out. You wanna leave, buddy? I opened the door for you, you wanted me to... It's like, no, I just wanted to have the option. I didn't actually want to leave. I just wanted to have the option for it. Alright. The Tempest. Acceleration / deceleration increased from 2.1 to 4.2. Acceleration / deceleration. Okay, so they're gonna speed up and slow down much faster. The radius / model skill is reduced by 10%. Improve the feeling of actively microing Tempest, as the slow acceleration makes them feel slow to respond when not already moving. This is gonna be pretty helpful, I think, especially against like big like Viking clumps and all that. Milo did leave. Oh, nice. Interesting. Interesting. Alright, so they're gonna be a little bit smaller. The Mothership. Oh, okay. No more -400, -400, guys. It's gonna be -250, -250. Cost reduced. Supply cost reduced as well. From 8 to 6. Build time reduced from 114 to 79. Speed increased from 2.6 to 2.8. Lateral acceleration increased from 1.925 to 3.32? Lateral acceleration as a faster unit changes direction while moving. Ah, so you can put it on your old army hotkey. So normally right now, right? Say you have your carriers or your Tempest, right? And a Mothership in the same control group. And you're like moving this direction. And you're telling, oh no, I actually want you to go that direction, right? The carriers are like, oh cool, we'll go that direction. The Mothership instead does this. It's like, ooh. And then eventually she comes across the way. Right? It takes forever. This, I guess, makes her a lot more microable. Yeah. I don't think this is actually that significant at the... Like, it might be significant at the pro level. I feel like pro players don't actually have an active hotkey for their Mothership. But anyways, there's a lot more. Radius and model skill reduced by 20%. It no longer has energy. Recall now has a cooldown. Recall radius reduced. Time warp now has a 60-second cooldown. Time warp slow reduced from 50 to 33. So that's attack speed and movement speed, I assume. Time warp radius reduced. Time warp cast delay reduced. Cloak field is no longer passive. It's now an activated ability which lasts for 10 seconds with a 50-second cooldown. Whoa! It's kind of like a Mothership core now. Okay, so it will have recall? Yeah, it's like a teenage Mothership now. Should have used protection Mothership. No, no, no. Okay, so it will no longer have energy. Instead, it'll just have a bunch of spells that are on cooldown. It's the step Mothership? No, no, it's not. Besides, she won't get stuck anymore because the lateral acceleration is a lot better. Okay, it will just have a bunch of abilities that are on cooldown. So it will have a recall, it'll have time warp, and it will have a new ability called Cloak Field that you have to manually activate that allows you to cloak stuff for 10 seconds. Okay, that's a big change. Reduce the investment and increase the maneuverability of the Mothership and prevent it from being hard countered by EMP. Yeah, that's actually a big deal. Since it's no longer a spellcaster, it can't just be destroyed by things like EMP. Should allow for earlier Mothership builds in all matchups as well as active usage of the Mothership. How much does a carrier cost, guys? I don't actually know the current cost of a carrier, but the carrier is more expensive than a Mothership. Yeah, the carrier is 350, 250. I wanted to say 300, 250, but no. So, the Mothership is literally cheaper than the carrier. So why would you not get a Mothership? Because I feel like with these stats, at least on paper, it seems like a lot more useful.
Help me step Mothership, I'm stuck in a cloaking field.
hate it when that happens. Thank you, Jones. This is gonna be very different. Yeah, this is gonna be a very significant change. Cool, though. Like, the Mothership always kind of felt like a gimmicky unit. So this kind of makes it from like a late game, I guess I have the money, so I'm gonna get it type of unit, to something that you may as well get. Like, if you got a fleet beacon, you may as well go ahead and make the Mothership. Like, there's really no reason, yeah, not for that thing to be out. It's gonna feel really weird, though. Yeah, it looks a bit like an Arbiter, but you can obviously only make a single one of it. Okay. Anyways. The Sentry. Guardian shield duration. One of the most useless units in the game. Guardian shield duration increased. Allows the Guardian shield to be pre-cast before engaging Terran armies involving ghosts, lasting longer into the fight. Okay, fair. I feel like the Sentry could maybe use a little bit more love than that, but... Problem is, if you change too much about the Sentry, 2 bays and 3 bays all-ins become very oppressive. It's more like a quality of life improvement, I guess. Oracle, Stasis Ward, sight range increased from 4 to 7. Allows Stasis Wards to be used more for central map vision with Stargate-based openers. Okay. Interesting. The Immortal, it will now block the first instance of damage, which triggers the barrier. But it does count towards the 100 damage blocked by the kid. Okay, I see. Currently, EMP hitting an Immortal will drain all of the Immortal shields as well as activate the barrier, which will generally expire before the Immortal ends up receiving other damage, making the unit heavily fall off in the mid-game against Terran. Right. So a lot of these changes are basically effective ghost nerfs, right? Immortal change over here, the Mothership change as well to no longer be a spellcaster. Whew, that's a lot of changes to go through, guys. So Cyclone is a complete rework. Mothership is a complete rework. Ghost is weaker. Widowmine is better. Medevac has got a small improvement in the late game. Raven, significant nerf in Terran versus Protoss. Lurker nerf. Infestor change. A little hard to say. Spire buff. Viper buff, but all very minor. Brute Lord buff-ish, sort of. Makes it more like a StarCraft Brood War Guardian. Overlord buff. Ultralisk buff. Hydralisk buff. This is a big one. Hydra buff actually is very significant. I feel like this is one that people won't talk about that much, but I actually think it's very significant. Baneling nerf. So Protoss is considered to be on the weaker end currently at the top level. I mean, I am not convinced that that is actually the case. I've talked about that many times in the past, but Protoss does seem to struggle a little bit overall at the top level. Real quick summary of why I don't 100% believe that Protoss struggles at the top level. First off, the best Protoss players that we've had historically are in the Korean military right now. Secondly, the #1 statistically ranked Protoss in the world, MaxPax, doesn't play offline tournaments. Like, it's things like that that really don't help the statistics very much, but overall, Protoss is perceived as a little bit weaker, and I do believe that it's probably the case. Sort of. Although if I imagine like Serral playing Protoss, I feel like he would destroy everybody. But maybe I'm mistaken. I think Protoss overall is considered a little bit gimmicky, and like the longer a patch is around, the more the opponents figure out how to play against them. So yeah, Protoss kind of relies on like catching the opponent off guard, and since we don't get as many changes anymore these days compared to like back in the day, it's more difficult, I think, to come up with those more gimmicky and haha, I've got you now type of builds. I don't know, man. Like, the top of the line in tournaments is not very Protoss favored, but if you look at things like Grandmaster League, like half of Grandmaster League, if not more, is Protoss. So it's tricky. But yeah, I do agree that Protoss probably could use a little bit of love, but I think it's like small percentages, you know what I mean? It's not that hard. Like, for a little bit, the highest ranked Protoss on the South Korean ladder was Maru. Like, Maru was the #1 ranked Protoss on Korea, even though he's a Terran player. Like, Force change is nice, Cybercore change is nice. War Prism is nice, I guess. This is a pretty significant change. This is very minor. I think this one actually will make things a bit easier. Overall, lately, Tempest transitions, especially like right at the very start of the early game, they've become pretty popular. So Tempest Mothership may actually be kind of sick now. This is also actually quite a significant change, I think, against Terran. But gonna be hard to say exactly how this works. This will make microing quite a bit easier. 2.1 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but it's kind of nice. I'm really excited to see how the Mothership works out, though. We may very well now go through a meta if this makes it out into the live version of the game, where, like, literally every single game will have a Mothership. You can confirm 2.1 additional seconds is quite nice. Good for you. Alright, guys, how do we feel about this? Let me get the chat on the screen. How do you guys feel about this? Initial impressions. Good, bad, love it, hate it? Hi, Mom. Yeah, she messaged me earlier. She's watching. Yeah, she texted me. She's Patch notes. They nerf Serral a little bit. StarCraft 2 not dead. Good to know, yeah. You can't wait to see it get played. Okay. Skytles will be in every game, I think. You think it's a Mothership nerf? Good for Protoss, in my opinion. Slightly worried for the Zerg casual player base. Ghost got nerfed? Yeah, that makes everybody happy. You're sad for the Mothership? Really? Oh, I'm super excited about the Mothership, actually, but... Hydra timing seems nuts. Yeah. All good except the Mothership? I guess we'll see how this plays out. It's really hard to say. You think the Tempest buff is going to suck for all-ins? You mean TVP all-ins from the Terran? Or what do you mean? You can't wait to be proxy Tempest? Yeah, that's actually a good thing. That is a build that has fallen out of favor for a long time. So we had a build that was quite popular for a while, where you go proxy Stargate with shield batteries on the low ground. And then your opponent at some point switches into Tempest. And the Tempest, when you have enough of them, they one-shot everything. I guess the combination of the Void Ray change, which is mostly a buff fix, or sorry, a bug fix rather. I guess you don't really get flex range with that build, but maybe you can. And the Tempest? And then the freaking Mothership is gonna... That's actually a very good point. Proxy Void Ray into Tempest into a freaking Mothership that flies through the center of the map is gonna be huge. Like, normally the Tempest coming out is like the final step in the Protoss all-in. Now a freaking Mothership may join in as well a little bit later. If you are on one base though, if you're stuck on one base and a Mothership comes in, I think you're pretty screwed, yeah. What do you think the guys on the internet are saying? I'm gonna refresh because this was posted very recently. Balance mods are available on all servers under the community balance patch August 23. Okay, so you can load those up in-game if you want to give it a try. We would like to receive as much feedback as possible for both the map pool and the balance update. Upon finalizing the map versions and the balance changes, we'll coordinate with our colleagues from Blizzard Entertainment. Colleagues? There's multiples? About the best way and timeline to implement these changes? Right now. I suggest right now. Like literally like maybe next week. But like, you know, right now. Right, as soon as possible. Our goal would be to have these changes implemented by the end of September, before the start of the next GSL season and the winter season of ESL SC2 Pro Tour. Good. Huge thanks to everyone who helped make these updates possible, and to Blizzard Entertainment for supporting the initiative, for coming from the esports community. Yeah, huge shout out to Blizzard Entertainment. Banelings don't one-shot probes anymore. I can't believe it. The Matlax actually did it. It's been 5 years since I've been pleading for this change. Alright, Gemini. So insane upgrades to the Medivac, a 100% regeneration increase with the... yeah, that's a big one. Cyclone gets an all-round buff when the player already makes them in TVP as Oracle defense. Hydra buff, Brute Lord buff, and Protoss gets very minimal stuff. They use Storm more versus Terran. Disruptor will still be the go-to. I actually think Storm will probably be more viable now, yeah. The range nerf will be quite significant on the Ghost, for the EMP in particular, but it's gonna be interesting. Mothership change, I just don't like. It's making a standout unit into a generic but weak and expensive spellcaster. Time Warp was already barely ever used. It did not need a nerf. Cloaking Field for 10 seconds is pretty useless. The thing is though, all of this will come up in the mid game now rather than the late game, which I actually think is a significant change. Disruptor nerf? I mean, it's got additional radius. It's gonna be one supply more expensive. Yeah, maybe Protoss could use one more thing. Widowmines once again avoided nerfs, but Disruptor's nerfed again? No, Widowmines got buffed, dude. Baneling's no longer one-shotting anything. Maybe overall, Protoss isn't getting a whole lot of love, but a lot of the counters, like for example EMP, and like for example the Raven, like for example the Baneling, right? A lot of those units do get nerfed. And I feel like those changes, I mean, you could write those down in the Protoss category, but like the counters against Protoss are being a little bit, yeah, they're being made a little bit weaker. In this thread, Metal Leaguers knowing why this pro design patch is bad before they've played it. I mean, you can have your initial opinions, right? I think it is important to not jump to conclusions too early, because a lot of these things do definitely have to be tested. And honestly, I feel like a map pool update, like a map change, is already going to be super significant. Most of these maps are pretty standard. The last one we looked at, though, was pretty crazy. Black Lotus. Yeah, this one over here. What is going on this map? This feels kind of crazy to me. There doesn't seem to be a way to go from there to there other than over here, but you'd have to mine out some mineral fields. Yeah, this is gonna be a very interesting map to see games on. Yeah, anyways. Maybe as a player, some of these changes are going to suck. But I think as a viewer, as a fan of high-level StarCraft, I think we can only be excited about this. Maybe we're gonna need to see some small adjustments and some number tweaks here and there. I'm sure we will. There's a very good chance that there will be a strategy that is gonna be utterly broken and it's gonna require some follow-up changes, but overall, I'm very excited for this. I honestly did not expect we're gonna get such a significant set of changes, especially in the middle of the year. Like normally, whenever, at least historically, StarCraft has gotten any competitive updates that are this significant, it's at the end of the year, so after the World Championships, but we're kind of in the middle of the season right now, so yeah. The end of the year tournaments are gonna be very cool. I personally am really excited for this. It's gonna be fun.